seeing this setup pretty nice. I don't like the glare. That glare is a bit annoying to me, but I'll have to deal with it.
Soldiers, prepare for battle!
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has actually been a highly requested video today that we're going to be doing, and this is my top 30 tips and tricks on Paladins. Now, for top 30 tips and tricks, we are not covering, like, you know, tips for every champion, because we have the champion profile series that we are doing. I'm going to pick emoji just because heck, emoji.
Spend these shiny things.
And the reason why we are doing a top 30 on tips and tricks is I want to really help people out. People have been telling me, you know, you want to help out, give us some tips and tricks. So there are going to be 30 tips and tricks, and there's going to be 5 for each of the 6 major areas I want to cover, which is each class. So you're going to have your flank, your support, your front line, and your damage. You'll have 5 tips for each. And then for ranked and casual players. Now this is high level, this is low level, it doesn't matter. Some of these things are things I do myself, and I think it's important to address. I'm not being a hypocrite, it's just me addressing, like, saying, you know, I'm kind of just trying to, you know, mention this to people, like, hey, these are things I'm working on, like, to improve as a Paladins player. And these are things that will help you improve as a player. So let's start first off with your support champions. And number one I want to talk about is target prioritization. Ow, that's not the button I meant to do. I'm going to go back to the lobby. I think it's more helpful on the other screen. So, we're going to start with supports. Target prioritization is number one. And this is something that I see come up a lot of times. Target prioritization is when you are playing a healer that has longer cooldowns, who are you healing first? And it also comes down to certain fights. As you can see, I have all of my healers at 30 or higher. So, I have a lot of experience on tank support. So, tank support are going to be the big things I talk about. At the same time, I have high-level flank, high-level damage. So, it's not like, oh, these chips don't work for me because I'm a support main. On a character like Ceres, who can have a relatively low cooldown, target prioritization is not as big of a deal. To be honest, what you have to really look at with target prioritization is 2 things. Let's say you have a Fernando and a Buck on your team. Okay, so Buck is in a 2v1 and Fernando is in a 2v1. Who you're playing as healer determines who gets the heal first. You have to realize something. Let's say that they're on opposite ends. They're fighting on opposite ends, okay? So, you have to decide who you're healing first. Well, there's 2 things. A, who are you playing? What is your cooldown? And B, you have to determine who's winning their fight. Fernando is a tank, so a lot of people who play healer, they think just feed the tank, constantly feed the tank's heals, and the tank will die. But Fernando has 4,600 HP. He's not gonna die pretty easily. Buck, on the other hand, only has 2,300 HP. So, he is going to die a lot faster. In fact, he's going to die twice as fast as Fernando is. Because he has half the HP. But, again, this comes down to knowing your character. For example, if you're Genos, let's say you look at your cooldown, you have an 8-second cooldown, but you have but your loadout drops it down to 6. So, who are you healing first? Fernando, because he has the highest chance of surviving based off of the heal that you give him. So you help Fernando by healing him, and then you help Buck by dealing damage with him. If you're a champion like Ceres, however, Ceres has a 4-second cooldown, and with your loadout, you drop it down to 2 seconds. So in that situation, you can heal Buck, and help him win, and still have enough time to turn around and heal Fernando. A target that is near death is not worth healing unless you have a big burst heal. A Pit Mega Potion, a Ceres heal, a Furia heal, a champion that's able to quickly deliver heals, like about close to 1,000 healing. A Grover Blossom or Ying Shatter on Life Exchange. That's good target prioritization. They're going to need, because you can deliver a bigger heal. On characters like Genos, Grok, to a certain extent Pip, because Pip has to predict their movement a bit more. That, you know, if he hits, it's an instant heal, but he has to predict their movement. Those are all champions that rely on anticipation and prediction. Damba has multiple heals active at a time, and they're relatively low cooldown, so he can kind of play around with that a little bit better. But target prioritization is your first key on support. Your second thing is that Chronos is not a necessity. Chronos is a crutch. On Grok, I understand, because he really doesn't have a strong way to reduce cooldowns. The best you're going to get is Gale, which is 5-second cooldown reduction on Healing Totem, but that only applies when you activate Ghost Walk. So him I understand. But there are other characters that really don't need it. For example, Ceres can have a 2-second cooldown. Furia can have a 4-second cooldown. Furia is a funny story as to why I say Chronos is not a necessity. I remember back in the day when Furia's Kindle Soul used to have a 4-second cooldown on it, and with the loadout that I run, it would then have a 3-second cooldown. But I didn't think 3-second cooldown was really worth me wasting 4 loadout points for. So I didn't bother using it. I ran a 4-second cooldown, and people would tell me, you need Chronos, you need Chronos, oh, we're dying, the extra second, no, god damn you to hell, Furia. Seriously, I actually had people, like, whining over the microphone like that. And then, they increased the cooldown of Furia's Kindle Soul from 4 seconds to 5 seconds. So then I ran that card in my kit to maintain my 4-second cooldown, because I was used to running a 4-second cooldown. So that nerf was nothing to me, because that was literally what I was doing. All I did was move my points around. Step into the Light and Sword of Divination have not changed since the patch. Cleansing Light and No Mana Loss have changed. No Mana Loss has been completely reworked. That used to be a shield one. But nonetheless, that's an example of you don't need Chronos. Because here's the thing. So you buy Chronos 1 out of the gate, you have to basically save up to Chronos 2. Because you are not getting any benefit at Chronos 1 unless you are Grok or Grover. Plain and simple. You do not get any benefit out of Chronos 1. Because if you're not taking a second off, you're wasting that ability. So then you get to Chronos 2, and on most characters that'll take a second off, so then it becomes useful. You don't really need more than that, though. If you need Chronos 3, you need to really look at your build and see what you're doing wrong. For example, if you're playing a damaged Damba, and you're buying Chronos because you're playing damaged Damba and you want to heal more, that's a problem. You're playing damaged Damba. By trying to heal more, you're actually playing outside of your role. Even though your role as a support is to heal, by you playing damaged Damba, you're saying, I'm not a support, I'm a damage. Same thing on Pip. So buying Chronos isn't useful to you. Buying Chronos is saying, I don't need to do that. You need to work on your role. Are you a healer, are you a damage, or are you a middle-of-the-road support? And that leads me to my third tip. Damage dealers are still good healers. Catalyst Pip still heals for 1,200 a potion. That's half health on every flanker damage in the game. And that's a quarter health for a tank. Now, yes, it does have a long cooldown on it, but he's hopefully doing enough damage to compensate. A stun Damba is able to give his team easier setups while still providing good healing. He's just not giving you an additional 300 healing. Genos on Luminary is giving you 15% bonus damage instead of 10% of your maximum health. Or a Binary Star is able to kill a target a little bit faster, but at the cost of not healing you as much. So damage healers are effective. There are a few times where damage healers are not so effective. Ying on Focusing Lens, I personally don't like, because Focusing Lens Yings tend to focus more on firing than they do on dropping clones, or on ulting. On Ceres, and Agony Ceres is not going to be focused on sustaining her team, because she's focused more on getting stuns and getting kills. Another example is a Ferocity Grover, because he's going to be very far in the back getting the maximum value of his throwing axe, and he's not really going to be focusing on being a healer because he's an up-close, close-range healer. But that doesn't mean that they're not healers. Grover and Ying in both of those situations have ults that heal. So if Grover has to come into the thick of things, he can vine in, heal up, hopefully his cooldown's reduced enough, he can come back out. Ying has her ult that heals everywhere. Grok on Maelstrom still has a totem he can drop anywhere he wants. So just because someone's playing a damage healer doesn't mean anything. Yes, that's an easy cop-out. If you're someone that's like an Anar or a Khan and you're not getting healed, you dying on the point a lot, you can attribute that to a lack of healing or poor positioning or no backline help. A healer could be healing you, but if it's just you and the healer on point killing the enemy team and your backline damages are sitting on their phones texting each other basically, then that's not going to help you. So the fourth thing we want to talk about when it comes to healers is another important thing. Ultimate presence. Now, this is an interesting one that I don't see a lot of times in high-level play, but I see it a lot in low-level play, believe it or not. Basically, casual versus ranked. I see this more in casual. Saving your ult for a situation where you need it the most, even if you generate it quickly. An example of this is using ultimates as a support for capping. I see this a lot in casual play, believe it or not. I will play entire games where we will never use our ultimates on defense. Or on pushes. We only use them on caps. Whereas in ranked, I see a lot of people just willy-nilly throwing ultimates out and using ultimates whenever. Really, when you're on the last minute of a push or a defend, nobody really touches it in ranked. But up until then, everybody says, "Fuck yeah, use it!" When there's really no value. If you're on a push, you want to spend the next 2 minutes as a support healing your team, keeping your team alive, to push it towards the end goal, which is actually pushing the cart in. So that's when a Grover ult becomes critical in healing up the Fernando that is ulted. Fernando doesn't die, you keep him alive with heals. Or Damba chasing everyone off the cart with his ult so that we can push that cart in. That's a situation. There's two caps in a game. Capping is when you move the cart in, and capping when you capture the cart in the first place. First you capture the cart, then you capture the point by pushing the cart into it. And ult presence is a big thing. More so as a support. See, supports generate ult faster than most other characters because they heal and damage. So they have two avenues of generating ult faster. And you can run morale boost, like, remember, I don't run Chronos on half of my characters as supports, so what is left there? What is left to be run? Morale boost. That being said, there are situations where you do want to use an ult, and use the ult as a pressuring tactic. This is why I said ult presence and ult pressure. This will be my last tip, is using ults to pressure effectively. This goes for offensive and defensive ultimates as a support champion. Genos is an offensive ult champion. Now, do you want to use your ult in a situation where you're not going to push the card in? No. Why? We're a minute and a half through the first push, pushing the cart to the enemy objective. If I can kill 3 people, that ult is worth it. That ult gives us a numbers advantage to get the cart up to the objective. Then the rest of my team can use their ults in turn to make sure we get it in and secure it. That's ult pressure. Another example of ult pressure is using another ult, like a Saris ult, as an offensive tool to set up other ults, which is basically what her ult does. You can use it to suck everybody off the point on a cap, or you can use it to set up a team wipe and push the card in off of that. Being able to perform ultimate pressure is just as important. Now, what about a defensive one, like a Grover or a Ying ult? How is that going to help your team pressuring the enemy team? If the enemy team tries to do the same strategy with their damages and front lines using their ults, a Ying or a Grover ult can help sustain your team and keep them alive. If Terminus ults, maybe Grover runs in and does enough healing on your tank to keep the tank alive. Maybe Ying's ult helps keep the team alive from a Victor barrage or a Tyra ult. You never know. So supports have to manage cooldown reductions with ult pressuring and ult presence. And they have to manage target prioritization. Alright, so enough with the supports. Now we'll move on to the tanks. And the first thing to understand, and the first 4 tips are going to be identifying what types of tanks there are. The first type of tank is a point tank. Point tanks are tanks like Anara. Their kit is designed for getting on the point quickly, establishing control, and then moving the cart forward by staying with the cart and treating it as a mobile point, so to speak of. Because Anara has amazing sustain and amazing control, she is able to very effectively control an area much better than a character like Ruckus is. Now, I'm not saying that Anara is only a point tank, just like I'm not saying Ruckus can't be a point tank, but I'm just giving my best example of what each type of tank is and how you should play, because this is something I see a lot of. I see a lot of Anaras on the side flanking, on a map like Serpent Beach, when you want to run down the middle and establish point. On a point tank, your best friend is Master Rider. Establish your point presence and get control quickly. Your next type of tank is a flank tank. Flank tank is someone like Terminus. Terminus has good mobility. Terminus is able to effectively come in from an odd angle and attack the point from another angle. Hopefully a backline damage is going to occupy, like a Vivian. They're going to occupy the enemy tank so that you can use Shatterfall and leap in from the side and take him from surprise, thus setting up a 2v1 with your damage and you as the tank against the enemy's tank. The tank then has to choose between fight or flight. If they fight, you have the point. If they fight, they can only pick a fight with one of the two, thus giving the other the opportunity to kill them. Flank tanks also serve another purpose. Flank tanks are kind of a hybrid because they're able to eliminate flanks on their own paths while they are trying to get into the back line. And if they don't kill the flank, they can at least weaken them and force them off. Flank tanks are not effective in all situations, and that's very important to note. You don't want to be a flank tank every single game, because you're not going to win if you try and spend most of the game flanking, and then by the time you come back to the point, your team has been wiped out. So even though you may have eliminated the flanks and the enemy backline, their tank and their support are full health on the point, and you're alone. That is a numbers disadvantage that flank tanks need to be able to balance as well. A flank tank's best friend is in most cases nimble, so that they can catch flanks and surprise enemy tanks. The next type of tank is a push tank. Push tanks are tanks that excel at hitting the point directly, clearing the enemies off of the point, and then pushing up with another damage or another flank, and zoning the enemy team out. Push tanks are like Fernando. Let's say a Scorch Fernando. He's able to apply so much pressure on the opposing backline champions because he has high health with decent sustain and good damage. He's a close range person that wants to get up in your face, where backline people don't want you to be. So with the help of your damage and your support, you clear off the tank on point, which normally will cause your backline threats to try and fall back and regroup. Fernando uses his shield and pushes forward with a damage or a flank behind him, and uses that as an effective strategy to begin pressuring the enemy team. Once you're done pressuring the enemy team, you leave a support like a Furia or a Genos behind to cap it with another backline damage, and you and the rest of your team begin to push up and start zoning them out. If somebody gets by you, they're at least going to be dismounted and taking damage. It's an easier kill. Push tanks are not flank tanks. They are a balance between flank tanks and point tanks. They play like a point tank at the start because they're focused on capturing the objective and killing enemies on point, then pushing up and being the aggressor. the push tank's best friend in most cases is morale boost, because you're going to need your ultimate as a way, because you're going to be being both aggressive and defensive, depending on who you're playing as a push tank. A Fernando, a Makoa, a Terminus, Khan, Ash, they all are incredible push tanks. Ruckus, your ult may be useful in different situations. Ash may need to double back and use her ult to cap the point if somebody gets by, whereas Ruckus may need his ult to help push up and keep the damage going. Fernando's is just all around great for being able to sustain himself and others. Backline tank is the last example. Backline tanks are Torvald and Khan, but I really want to mention Khan because he's the prime example for me. Backline tanks are tanks that can kind of do it all. They have a bit of sustain, they have a bit of support, and they have a bit of damage. What makes a backline tank effective is backline tanks worry about eliminating enemies that get behind them. Their job is to not only cap the point, but cover every ground behind them. As a backline tank pushes forward, they will help double team any target that gets behind. Khan is a great example of bailing out a healer that gets flanked, because he can commander's grab back onto them, chuck them off, and then heal his support up. Then help the support kill that flank. Backline tanks are great because they prevent enemy flanks from getting behind. If that means that you have to leave the point and give up some objective time so that you can help clear your backline, that's very important. Here's why. A backline tank is not concerned about anything in front of him. They're only concerned about people behind them. And the further that they're able to push up, knowing that there are no people behind them, the further they actually can. If you're not worried about getting in the back, you actually move forward pretty quickly. The last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to tanks, that I want to address to all 4 tank players, is that your role as a tank is not to sit on the point and spam healing and spam attack when you die. A tank's job is to use their increased health and defensive options in order to help their team win firefights and to help their team win the objective. Viewing the objective as one big firefight that takes place over the course of the capture, and that a tank is the key to that, makes you a much better tank player. If you start playing a tank as kind of like a quarterback, they kind of control the action in a firefight. If a tank is on point and they're not moving, generally flanks and damages will try and fight the people that are off the point, which forces the people off the point, on the point, to be protected by their front line, who then pulls out the big guns and starts coming after anybody that chases. So it forces your tank and your healer and your team to push together. Good front lines are the glue that hold a team together. Without the good front line, there's no threat to keep the enemy team from just running onto the point willy-nilly. And without good teamwork, you could be the best front line in the world, but you're never going to sustain by yourself in a 5v1. So, remember that you control the firefight on the point, no matter what tank that you are. The next class I want to talk about are going to be your flanks, because flank is the next area that people say I have experience in. First off, flanking is not about what role you are playing. Flanking is about positioning. If you find yourself in a bad position on Xin, you have multiple ways to get out of that situation because he has very versatile options. Same thing on a Maeve, or same thing on a Buck even, because Buck does have decent options to get out, believe it or not. He has Leap, he can slow somebody and run away with Ensnare, and he can just heal up as he runs away. However, someone like a Skye or a Talus is not going to be able to get out of that positioning fight. If you poorly position yourself as Skye, you're fucked. If you reveal yourself in a bad spot with no way to go back into stealth and get out, you're not going to win that situation. You're just going to die. If Talus drops his teleport in a bad spot, and he goes into a firefight, not realizing that he's going to leave one firefight to another, he's dead. He can't do anything about that positioning. So watching your positioning is critical. This will lead me to my second point, is that positioning is key on you for keeping yourself alive, but positioning of the enemy team is also important. Many flanks, Mojis, Talus, Sky, Koga, can handle multiple people at a time. So don't look at a 2v1 and say that's bad positioning. If you have all of your abilities, if you have a decent amount of health, if you don't have to reload, you can take on 2v1s and 3v1s and come out on top. Or 3v2s and 4v2s and come out on top if you have some help. As a flank, don't be afraid to take on multiple people, even if you're going to dot. If your positioning is good and you can eliminate at least one of the two, or two of the three, that you're going up against, it provides a distraction. Those 2-3 people are now focusing on one target, which means the rest of your team has a numbers advantage. So flank's job is sometimes to just straight up die. That's what makes Lex, Talus, Sky, Maeve, Eevee, Xin, Koga all so annoying, is because they are very effective at getting in and annoying multiple people at a time and losing. I didn't notice how I didn't mention Buck, Andro, or Moji, because Andro really focuses on a single person more. He doesn't really have the kit to focus on multiple people, and people can say, well, Lex does that too, but Lex can activate Pursuit and just spin around and hit a bunch of people. That's why I mentioned that. Buck, same thing. He's better in 1v1s. And Moji can handle multiple people at a time and can generally win. You have no idea the amount of 3v1s, 4v1s, and even 5v1s that I can win on Moji. Although I am a Moji main. So that's why I didn't mention that. This leads me to my next point. Flank's job is not necessarily to get kills. A flank's job is to also deal damage. And that's what makes flanks and damages interchangeable. Technically, Androxus and Canessa have the exact same role. Andro's job is to get kills. Canessa's job is to get kills. The only difference between Canessa is she deals more damage per shot and has less mobility than Andro does. The difference between Cassie and Eevee, besides less health and Cassie being a bit slower, is the fact that Eevee has more mobility, whereas Cassie is more damage-oriented. Cassie's focused on dealing more damage, but is still trying to get kills. A damage's job is not to sit there and weaken everybody up so that a flank runs in and kills them. A damage's job is to get kills, and you do that by damaging people. Well, a flank's job is to get kills, and you do that by damaging people. So, it's not necessarily a flank's job to just go into the back and just kill people. The fourth tip and trick that we have for the flank class is a loadout-based one. And this is sustain. This is another thing that I had to mention, is that all flanks have the capability to heal themselves. Buck has a fucking ability dedicated to that. Andro has the ability to heal up on his dash. Eevee can heal up on her Ice Block and her Blink. Maeve has the ability to heal up on a Pounce and off of 9 lives and Wall and Prowl. Lex gets Life Rip against his Retribution target and can get maximum health generated by killing them. Koga gets health off of dashes. Moji gets Life Rip based off of detonating magic marks. Sky Sky really doesn't have good health. She gets health when she enters Smokescreen. But she does have a legendary card that makes up for that with having Preparation that heals you every time you get a kill. Talus has amazing Life Rip. And Xin can go into Billow. And with Smolder, he can do the same thing. He also has Retaliation that lets him heal up and yada yada. So, most flanks, believe it or not, do not need a healer running around the map following them the entire time, spam healing you. If you are one of those flanks, refer back to your positioning. Your positioning is a critical reason to why you're dying. And also, this leads me to my last point. As a flank, don't be afraid to die. You have the lowest health in the game. Your job is to be a distraction. You're not just there getting kills and dealing damage. You are a distraction. Where I talked about 3v1s and 4v1s and 3v2s and 4v2s and that. You are always at a numbers disadvantage because you have all of the tools in your kit to survive. But sometimes you're going to get beat. Sometimes Eevee's going to have all of her abilities on cooldown and just die to a Kinessa headshot. Which, to be fair, there's not a lot that Eevee can really do against Kinessa except, like, stay away and get behind her. A Talus is sometimes just going to run out of ammo at the wrong time. Moji's not going to have Magic Barrier up at the right time. Buck is going to get hit with so much cauterize he can't heal himself. You're going to lose situations. The key is to make yourself as big a distraction as possible. If you're going to go out with a bang. If I'm going to die, I'm going to get behind you, and I'm going to make you kill me. I'm going to make you look me in the eyes and kill me. Come on, fight me. Let's go. That's what you need to be as a flank. You need to be an aggressor. You need to be in their back line as Buck, saying, you want to kill me? Come get me. Don't just sit there and go, oh, I'm outnumbered, and stay and take it and die. Be as big of a distraction as you can so that the rest of your team can either bail you out, which then you don't die. Or, if you're just going to die, go out with some grace and take somebody with you. Now we move on to the damage category. And the damage category is going to be oh so fun. Where do I start? First off, there is no best damage when it comes to automatic fire versus projectile champions. Projectile champions like Shaolin, Cassie, Drogos hit harder by default because they have to aim their shots much more precise. Automatic fire champions like your Tyras and Victors and Vivians make up for that by dealing lower damage per shot. If they don't have good enough aim where they just shoot the broadside of a barn instead of the person that's standing inside the barn, then they're not going to get any benefit out of their weapon. The next thing that I want to mention is that just because a damaged character does not have mobility, we're talking about you, Tyras, and Vivians. Willow has mobility, but it's not very good. Shaolin has mobility that goes backwards. Yeah. Just because you have lower mobility doesn't mean that you can't flank. Remember, Vivian has cards in her loadout for movement speed. Every damage in the game really has options for mobility. I think Strix, you really just have to buy Nimble on him. He doesn't really have any mobility in his kit. Like, sorry, you just don't. But he has the ability to go stealthy and try and stealth into an area and be a flank that way. So there is that going for him. Don't just think that if you're a you're Strix that, oh, I can't flank at all. Every damage character has the ability to flank, whether through their mobility in their loadout or through their actual kit. Whether it's just a boost in movement speed like a Vivian or a Tyra, or whether it's a dedicated movement ability like a Bomb King or a Cassie. You have the ability to get into the back line of the enemy and cause some terror. Don't be afraid to flank as a damaged character. The next tick to focus on is how to prioritize your targets. Is based off of not who the enemy team has, but who the enemy team damages. And that's very important to note. See, if you're playing Cassie, and the other team has a Tyra, generally you want to kill the Tyra before you kill the healer. What? No, that's a low-level trick. No. If you're Cassie, you outrange Tyra, so you can kill Tyra before she kills you. And Tyra does more damage to the rest of your team, your front lines and your supports and your flanks, than she actually does to you. She reveals the flank, her firebomb is very effective against tanks, and she can just use the grenade launcher on the support because she just feels like it. As a Cassie, rather than killing the enemy team support, which is you want to focus on killing the Tyra first. That takes the pressure off of the rest of your team, who can now help you effectively kill them. By them, I mean the support. If the enemy team brings a Strix, who's a long-range target, then you don't want to focus on killing the Strix first. Strix outranges you, and is going to be able to kill you a lot faster than you kill him. Granted, you have the mobility advantage against him. Your consensus is to push up and get it closer to him, forcing him off of his game. How do you get close to him, though? You need to kill the rest of the enemy team. So focusing on a tank or a support is a much better idea than going after the Strix. This is basic for every damage. Who you prioritize as targets actually comes down to who the enemy damage is, rather than who the enemy team comp is. The next tip I want to talk about as well is another important thing. Champions that are damage champions. This goes for Willow. You have cooldown builds in your kit. Do not stack multiple reduction cards. Willow has Just Believe. Let me see. Vivian doesn't have one. Victor doesn't have one because they don't have those types of cooldowns. Shaolin. Bullseye. Tyra has Primal Might. Strix doesn't have one, I don't think. Leon has Inheritance. Canessa doesn't because her kit is different. I don't think Bomb King does. No, Bomb King doesn't. I don't think Dredge doesn't, I know that. Cassie doesn't. I don't think Drogos does. But those champions that have cards like Inheritance, Primal Might, and Bullseye, those are very important cards to run. Don't stack those on top of other level 5 cards. The biggest thing that I see people trying to do is they will run Primal Might 5 and they will run Volatile 5 and think that that amount of cooldown, that 10 points on cooldown reduction, and they're good to go. That is overkill. You don't want to have that. Now, I understand if you have Volatile in your kit as a filler at level 1, level 2, even... No, just level 1 or level 2 is a filler. Because that's really all you need it as. As a damage character, as long as you're applying steady enough damage, you'll get a lot of eliminations. Those cards pay for themselves at level 5. Getting a card like Volatile, getting a card for Shaolin on reducing the cooldown on your planted is not necessary. You want to get an elimination, and that will reset your cooldowns instead. It has nothing to do with getting a kill. It has to do with getting an elimination. 2 assists will yield you another ability. So, a Tyra Firebomb on Primal Might comes out a lot faster because she only needs a kill or an assist twice in order to have it reset. Versus on a Volatile and a Primal Might, it's overkill. You're wasting 5 loadout spots. You still have to get the 2 eliminations to get the cooldown to reset. You're just wasting 5 more points. Lastly, the last damage thing that I want to mention as well, and this is specific to you Blaster damage champions. Blaster's range is mid-range, not close range, not long range. Drogos, Willow, Bomb King, and Dredge, you cannot snipe. You may want to be at far range so that you're not, dying all the time, but a Blaster's worst champion is a sniper. So you're not effective at long range. And at close range, you get out DPS by your Tyras, your Victors, your Vivians, your Mojis, your Bucks, your Kogas, your everybody's. Blasters live from mid-range. A character like Bomb King is a bit more close range than Willow and Drogos. Dredge is a bit longer range than a Willow and a Drogos because of the fact that he doesn't really do well if he gets flanked. But he can kill himself at close range. Bomb King has mobility enough to get away at close range, but you really can't miss your shots at close range, so Bomb King's pretty effective at close range over long range, but mid-range is still where you want to be. So for you Blaster champions out there that think close range or long range is your designated role, no, you're wrong. Last tips are for general tips for everybody, and this is something I want to mention. We'll start with high-level ranked players. A. Your rank doesn't matter in the long run. People that are in low rank, bronze, silver, gold, can't shit on anybody that's lower than them. Golds and silvers can't crap on bronzes. Golds and plats can't shit on silvers. Now, can plat and diamond shit on golds and lower? Yeah. Should they? No. Because rank doesn't really matter. I've been as high as master and as low as gold. That is my peak range for as long as I've been playing ranked. And I'm a high level player with a lot of experience. I'm diamond 4. I don't give a shit. I was plat 2 yesterday. Yeah. I went from plat 2 to diamond 4 because I played effectively. I qualified at plat 2. I'm a high level player. Now, I will lose ranked games more because of my second point. In-game toxicity. And my next 2 points are in-game toxicity. I have a lot of losses on there. I have a 50% losing rate. You lose a lot of games. You're not going to win every single game of ranked. As long as the loss is a close loss, it's not really a problem. If you're losing close games, it means you're just losing to a better team. If you're getting blown out, it means your team sucks. It means you're not communicating effectively, which your toxicity is not helping. And it means that you, as a player, need to improve not necessarily on your performance, but on your communication. The next thing that I want to mention, and this is a very important thing to note, and this also goes to toxicity. If you have not been on microphone all game, this thing here on your head, if you haven't been using this all game, and then near the end of the game, or late into the game, you decide to get on microphone and message all the other people that are in your party, or that are on your team, and say, "Oh God, you guys suck. I need healing." What's your excuse earlier in the game? Now, I make this mistake a lot. I am generally in party with friends. I generally sit here with friends. Excuse me. And I will generally, not leave the party except to shit on somebody. Now, my thing is this. If I'm in party with other people, and I go in a game chat because somebody is in game chat talking the whole time, now that's on me for being in party chat, but generally, I'm in party chat because I've had such a bad experience with toxicity. And that's just a general thing with ranked. Toxicity is bad. So you just getting on the mic late into the game to shit on other people is not helpful. Shoo, go away with that. You're not helping. The next thing I want to talk about when it comes to rank is that team comp doesn't necessarily matter. Now, hold up a minute. Team comp doesn't matter in ranked? What I mean by that is specific champions are deemed high or low. Sky right now is deemed a high level champion for no apparent reason. Talus is deemed a high level champion for no apparent reason. Flank champions are oftentimes prioritized as being banned or top pick worthy, when in fact tanks and God dang it. Tanks and supports are more necessary as top picks. If you solidify the top healer like a Ceres, a Damba, or a Furia earlier in the game, then the other team now needs to pick more damage to counteract you. If you lock up 2 tanks in your first 3 picks, Anara Fernando, Khan and Ruckus, Terminus Torvald, you're able to effectively control the match by saying, we will win on the point. You need to bring damage to come kill us, or more tanks. I had a game recently, we ran 3 tanks, a damage, and a healer. And we won that game handedly, because we had the tank power. because we established tanks early. We got a tank with the 1 pick, the 3 pick, and the 5 pick. And we said, fuck yeah. Mostly because by the time the person who had picked at number 5, most of their main or best characters were gone. So they picked tank, except out of the tank class. So they picked tank, and they were fantastic on that. Team comp doesn't matter as long as your skill on a champion is good. So if you're a good Skye, you're a good Moji, you're a good Tyra, you're a good Vivian, fuck what everybody else says. If you're good on that character, play that character. Because if you are comfortable and you are effective on that character, it is more effective for you to do well. Because if you're doing well, it means that the rest of the team should be following your example. A Vivian over a Cassie is not a debate. If you're more comfortable on Vivian than Cassie, play Vivian. The enemy team is not going to go, Cassie! No! If you're a shit Cassie. If you're a bad Cassie, the enemy team is not going to look and say, oh god, they have a Cassie. What have we done? If you're a good Vivian, on the other hand, they will. Last point I want to mention about rank, and this goes back to your rank does not matter, is that this resets. There are 44 days before that resets, before that little shield icon, no matter what color it is, no matter what color you have here, that resets in 44 days. It might go up, it might go down, it might stay the same. Your life in Paladins is not predicated upon what your rank is. And this is not, don't shit on higher or lower level players. This is, at the end of the day, ranked is no more than casual with a few rule changes. If you approach it that way, you will have more fun and you will win more games. All of these people that, and this is the thing where people say, oh, you're a tryhard if you're trying to play casual for serious. I actually view ranked players as tryhards because they win. I have to win every single game possible. I am a grandmaster. If you are a grandmaster, you would know that you're not going to win every single game. Grandmasters lose games. You want to look at the leaderboard right now? Ah, shit. There's that glitch again. Let's look at the Grandmaster leaderboard. 75 losses, 45 losses, 38 losses, 80 losses, 80 losses, 100 losses, 68 losses, 52 losses, 53 losses, or 56, sorry, 37, 124, 113, 104, 127, 52, 60, 62. Do you see anybody on, let's scroll down. Do we have anybody on the Grandmaster leaderboard with less than 25 losses? Can we find anybody that has losses in 20? Up! That's 27! We got a 27! Yeah! You've lost 27 times! You're not a Grandmaster according to these people. No. You, for the most part, if you can make it to that high of a level... Oh, we have a 20! Wait, there's a 20! And there's another 27! Oh my god, it's 16! They still lost 16 games, is my point. As a Grandmaster or a Master or somebody, you're going to lose games. Don't sit there and say, oh god, I'm losing all these games because you lost 2 games in a row. Salty tear. And as a low-level player that's trying to grind up to higher play, if you are grinding in higher play and you are not winning, that means that you are not there. You are not at a high-level player. Just because you play the game a lot, if you're losing a lot of your ranked games, you're losing for a reason. Now I want to talk to the casual tips. There is a bonus rank tip, but I'm chucking it in casual because this is another important thing. Playing in a group of people is more effective in casual than ranked, believe it or not. A 5-stack in casual is great. A 5-stack in ranked is not so much. So use your casual power to your advantage. Having all of your friends with you in casual, which is what I'm going to do when this video is done, is I'm going to message every motherfucker that I see that's on Paladin and say, get in here, we're rocking and rolling. The Ayatollah of rock and roller, baby. But in ranked, it's actually not. Running 5 stacks in low tier ranked isn't effective. Yes, you control an entire team comp. You don't have a rando that doesn't pick what you don't want to, but too many variables, to be honest. Really, if you're in party chat with just 2 or 3 people in ranked, you actually are really just worrying about the 2 or 3 of you. You look at it as a 5v3 or a 5v2. So, first tip the second tip we're going to mention for casual players. Okay. I'm Androxus. I am dying a lot. You know what I do? Need healing! Need healing! Need healing! If you are dying a lot, the first thing that you need to do is watch your kill cam. The reason why they have a kill cam is for that reason. Here's what I love. I died 9 and 10 times in these games, and we lost those games. Now our TDM, I was responsible for a quarter of our team's deaths. I didn't sit there and spam need healing. At the same time, my eliminations are very high. On my Vivian game, I attributed for over half of the team's eliminations, because we lost, we didn't hit 40, but I was a quarter of our team's deaths. Was this loss my fault? No. Me and Nicola died the most, but we also got the most kills. High risk, high reward. We didn't spam need healing. Looking at something, well, what about a siege? In a game like this, I had good performance. The rest of my team was a little bit lackluster. They didn't really do well. Our ruckus wasn't very good, which in turn meant that even though our Saris was doing a lot of healing, she spent most of her time healing the ruckus that just kept dying. We had the flank that wasn't able to apply pressure because I couldn't get enough pressure on their backline people, and my flank couldn't do enough on the backline people because I couldn't apply enough pressure to point and mid to give them an opportunity to get in. That is an example of a loss where you need to look at your positioning. Nobody in that game said need healing because we were all in squad together and we all looked at our positioning. No one said, oh god, this is so bad. Where we went wrong was the rando was not attacking the objective in situations where they had the opportunity to do so. We went into game chat and we told him his positioning was bad. What did he do? Laughing emote. And spam need healing. If you're not willing to look at what you are doing wrong and admit that you are doing something wrong as a player, especially when other people point it out and acknowledge that you are doing this wrong, you will never improve as a player. And this also leads me to my third point for casuals. Losses are not bad. Every victory is an opportunity to teach. You are teaching the enemy team what they did wrong. Every loss is an opportunity to learn. You are losing what you did wrong. Embrace the loss. Embrace that. This is why I have such a carefree and casual attitude to ranked, and I play ranked like casual, because I'm not afraid to lose. It's a learning experience. And learning as a Paladins player is key. I am not a fan of snipers, but I am plugging through losses on snipers. And I am getting better on Kinessa, on Strix, on Eevee. My 3 lowest levels, I am grinding them. Kinessa was at 13, and Strix was at 14, and I've gotten them up 5 levels. I'm proud of myself. I'm going to pat myself on the back because I'm struggling through it. It's important that you find adversity. Adversity and losing is a good thing because it makes you overcome. And it makes when you reach that peak of victory, that pinnacle, that much sweeter because you had to overcome all of this. The next point I want to mention is that you need to focus on flexibility as a new player. And even as a long-term player, you want to focus on flexibility. I can play every character in the game just about. If I can get the 2 snipers over the hump to 20, I will officially be able to say that I can play every character in the game. Yeah, I don't care. I wanted to throw that in there. It's simply a matter of, that's a bragging right for me, is my flexibility. My highest healer is 35, my lowest is 30. I have over 100 games on every support. My highest tank is 46, and my lowest tank is 30. But I have over 100 games on every tank except Torvald. And that's only because on Torvald I spammed the hell out of him for Dragon's Call, because he was my best player on Dragon's Call as a support-based champion. The more you know. But besides the point, damages and flanks, I have strong damage and flank on a few people. And that's why I'm working on my damages. I have a 24 damage, I have a 23 damage, I have a 26, I have a 23, I have an 18, I have a 19, I have a 22, but he hasn't been out that long, so you can't judge me on him. And that's really the key for me, is my flexibility is one of the reasons why I am a high-level player. I'm able to rapidly adapt to certain situations and play styles because I can play everybody, because everybody has different play styles and abilities. I have a lot of people that I know that they really just main a few people. They have a few strong points on tank. They have a few strong points on healers. They have a few strong points on damages or on flanks. I can literally let the game auto-pick and decide, and I'll say that's fine. If I get someone like Kinessa, Koga, Strix, or Eevee, I will bitch and moan and complain because I don't like playing them. Like, I can play Koga, I'm a good Koga, I don't like playing him. Same on Eevee, I'm a good Eevee, I just don't like playing her. They are my two choices on flank that I'm like, oh, do I fucking have to? I don't want to. And then I'm just simply not as good on Kinessa and Strix, so that's why I'm like, I don't want to play them because I'm not good on them. But me playing them makes me a better player. The last tip I want to explain for casual players is that this game is fun, even when you are losing. And I want to mention that because it can be fun to have a loss. I've had fun getting blown out where it's me and a bunch of my friends, like, just fucking around. We're not playing seriously. I have a Pip that just goes, hey, here's a catalyst. Doing Pip, here's a catalyst. Every time he throws that hit, he cannot hit that healing potion for shit. But every time he does it, he's gonna say, hey, here's a catalyst. Or I have a Vivian that runs around the map saying, have you met my friends? Come meet my friends. My friends want to meet you. We don't lose. We don't win those games. But it is fun as hell. And having fun in this game is the end of a game, because it is the objective. So that is my 30 tips and tricks for casuals, ranked, supports, damage, tanks, and frontlines. I said frontline and tank twice, and I think I left a class out, but I don't care. Have fun. Bye-bye. I'm done.